This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based cellar. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com.
Well, sir, we got a scorcher today.
Gonna be a real scorcher today.
Quite the scorcher today.
Well, it's gonna be a scorcher.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 83 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Liljenwall. I got producer Noah here with me. Noah, we just spent about an hour and a half renovating the Lobbing Scorchers studio.
Yep.
We've got it all set up, and we are T-minus 1 week away from being done with the off-season, being done with preseason, and having actual games to cover. How are you feeling?
I mean, I've been begging for games, and we took our own preseason, which was the last 3 hours, it felt like, to set up this new studio look. We've got a new studio look. We've got a new live stream look. 2025 is going to be not only a big year for the Sounders, but a big year for the boys here at Lobbing Scorchers.
Yeah, I got clowned on.
A little bit.
I got clowned on deservedly for... what was the word? Polish. Lack of polish with my live streaming setup. And, you know, we don't stand for lack of polish here. We decided to solve that right off the bat. Shout out to the commenter who it was fair points.
It was good
fair
point,
points.
yeah.
We have taken steps to amend that. We have a new setup, new studio setup. We got some new lighting that we're going to toy around with. It's we're on the up, Noah. We're on the up. The season's actually starting in a week. I'm feeling pretty good. And we've got a big show tonight. Starting this at 10:30 p.m. on a Wednesday.
The dedication to the craft.
We have got a game review to get to. The Seattle Sounders actually played two, if I'm not mistaken, two separate matches against USL side Louisville City FC. Louisville City FC. They won 4-0 in the first game and 3-0 in the second game. A lot more goals. We're going to break all that down. We are going to grade the Seattle Sounders preseason. We had an episode a few weeks ago where we graded their off-season moves, Craig Wives. We're going to grade their preseason after this slate of exhibition games has now wrapped up. And we've also got some major MLS news to hit later in the show. The Lucho Acosta-Evander saga has officially been resolved, and the Portland Timbies lost their best player. That's pretty funny. Lucho Acosta, a league MVP, has a new team. It's a seismic move. It's been a pretty dramatic and eventful offseason for a lot of these clubs who are getting in feuds with their star players. And now we have, like I said, a league MVP player, who's still in his prime, I would say, as far as his ability to produce in this league. He's going to FC Dallas. And the Portland Timbies have an Evander-sized hole to fill as he is off to FC Cincinnati. We're going to talk about all that and more. But first, I do have to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. Thank you to all our sponsors. We love and appreciate you. And thank you to all our subscribers. Noah, do we have any new subscribers?
Ari, we have quite a few new subscribers to thank here. Are you ready for me to go down the list? Matthew Derland, Will Munslow, Tortney Onanes, Mark Kovaric, Fred Olson, Mark Thorington, Alex Mezzi, Brad Podzinski, sorry, Brett, Jake Smith, Dylan Albrecht, and Kenny. Thank you all to our new subscribers. If you want your name read on the pod and want to support the pod, Lobbing Scorchers or sounderatheart.com/LS. It's
preseason form.
Yeah,
still. Weren't you supposed to thank your mom?
Oh, yeah. And to my mother, my beautiful mother, Lori Riffe. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
My mom subscribes too. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. My mom was upset that I didn't hit the thank you. So we must
you gotta
atone.
thank the mom.
Yeah.
New Sounders kit is out right now. And if you want to pick one up, go to lobbingscorchers.com/MLS store. If you order your new kit through that link, then it supports us. So it's a win-win. We did some kit discourse on our last live stream, which was pretty fun. It seems like people really like the kit. I like the kit. I was talking about this on the live show, but I'm not as passionate into kit discourse as a lot of people are. But I thought it was pretty sick. And it seems like, sometimes a kit drops and there's a lot of outrage and negativity.
Yeah.
Does not really seem to be the case since this kit leaked and now it's dropped.
Yeah, I didn't really see anyone upset about it. I mean,
not a lot of people upset.
That's a good thing, I'm excited to see it in person. We're recording this in advance, obviously, so we haven't seen the full thing. It comes out tomorrow, but
everyone's seen the leaks.
Everyone's seen the
Let's be
leaks,
honest.
and it looks cool. So I'm stoked for it. And you know what? It can't be any worse than than some of the worst ones. That's my take.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this. It's a dub pod.
It's a dub pod. Wait,
it's
first dub pod of the year?
Preseason. Well, I mean, there's been a couple of other preseason dubs, but
True.
This is a double dub pod. Technically, there was 2 games played against Louisville today, and Seattle took a 4-0 victory, like I said, in the first one, a 3-0 victory in the second one. A bunch more goals, so we're gonna recap this real quick, and then we're gonna grade Seattle's preseason. 4-0 victory in the first game. That included the first choice lineup. I think that was pretty much how they would line up.
Minus Albert,
exactly.
Who's out with injury right now.
If it was a league game or a big game of any sort, that is, I think, how they would line it up. They've been drilling this 3-5-2 during the preseason. But the 4-2-3-1 that they ran today with De La Vega on the left, Ferreira on the right, and Morris up top, I think that's probably the first choice formation, and they'll run the 3-5-2 in maybe different matchups or when there's different personnel at their disposal based on rotation and fixture congestion. We're going to see that look this year. They're not drilling that for no reason.
True.
But how they lined it up today is how I think they're going to line it up when CCC starts and the season starts. 4 more goals. Pedro De La Vega, a brace, 2 more goals for him, bringing his total for the preseason up to a team-leading 4. Christian Roldan found the net, assist to Jesus Ferreira, and Ymar got in on the fun 39th minute rebound header
off of a beautiful bicycle kick that Pedro De La Vega had saved by the keeper, and just pawed away, and immediately Ymar was up there, rising up like a salmon, smashing it in the back of the net.
De La Vega looked great again. We're going to talk about that. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, not just from this game, but through for all of this preseason for Seattle. 3-0 victory in the second scrimmage against Louisville. There was a Stu Hawks goal. That's kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Stu Hawks got on the score sheet. There was a Moose goal. Not good for your agendas.
Don't think
but
that happened.
Yeah, it might have been AI.
It might have been AI.
Might have been AI, but we were told that Moose scored, and there was an own goal. So that's a combined 7-0 on aggregate victory over Louisville. Let's grade the Seattle Sounders preseason on the whole. No, I'm going to hit you with some numbers.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about our takeaways from all this. The Seattle Sounders wrapped the 2025 preseason with a record of 4 wins, 0 losses, 2 draws, 19 goals scored. If you count the second Louisville game, which I am, that counts. It counts. Why would that not count? 19 goals scored, 8 conceded for a cool little plus 11 goal differential. Team leaders in goals, you had Pedro De La Vega leading the way with 4. You had Jesus Ferreira with 2, and then like 15 guys with 1. Jordan Morris.
Didn't Moose have 2 though? I feel like Moose had 2.
No. I went through this all today.
Okay.
He had an assist.
That's what it was. It was an assist.
But this was his first goal of the preseason. De La Vega led the team with 4. Ferreira had 2. Morris, Rusnak, Snyder Brunel, Alex Roldan, Christian Roldan, Paul Rothrock, JP, Travion Sosa, Obed Vargas, Ymar, Stu Hawk, and Moose all had 1. So, I mean, that's a diverse group of goal scorers to get to that 19 total, which I think is a good thing. Assists, you had Jordan Morris, JP, Jesus Ferreira, Christian Roldan, all with 2. De La Vega, Josh Atencio, Paul Arriola, Moose, and Georgie with 1. So here's what I wanted to talk about as we take stock of the Seattle Sounders undefeated preseason, 19-goal preseason. I came up with a few topics that we can debate, and then I guess we can assign our grades. But to me, really, I'll lay down the criteria for what I was grading on going into the preseason, and then we can talk about how Seattle measured up to that. So to me, I think the whole storyline this preseason and with this team right now is, have they meaningfully improved this offense from where it was last year to where we can non-delusionally hope and expect that they will exceed last year's goal total of 51, which is not enough goals. The Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola moves got made. Obviously, the Jesus Ferreira trade was the number one biggest move to address that concern. And I got to say, after seeing them run that 3-5-2 to the effect that they did and score 19 goals, I mean, they had a 5-goal game this preseason, a 4-goal game this preseason, 2 3-goal games, 2 2-goal games, all multi-goal games. These are preseason opponents, but the teams that they were playing in Spain were not bad, you know. And Louisville City, there's a pretty big gap between Seattle and them. But the point is, like, playing against this competition to rack up 19 goals, that's good. That is what you want to see.
And they weren't just like bum goals either. Like today specifically, Pedro's second goal was disgusting. I mean, just an absolute nasty strike. Top bins, perfect, on the stride. It was splendid. It was splendid, Ari. It was splendid.
So that's a good segue into the next thing that I was looking at as I took stock of and graded and assessed this preseason, which is the performance of Pedro de la Vega specifically. I think we've talked about ad nauseum how important him taking a pronounced, meaningful step forward is this year for the ceiling of this team. He still has to do it when the actual games start. But, I mean, you really, you could not have hoped to see anything more than we've seen from him in preseason in search of that breakout. I mean, he has been on it. He's looked sharp. His finishing has been excellent. The way he's combining with other players, specifically Jordan Morris and Jesus Ferreira, it just looks night and day, I think, compared to last year. He looks fit. He looks motivated. I don't want to jinx anything. Like I said, he's still got to prove it, and he's got to stay on the field. So those caveats notwithstanding, I mean, he has been the best player on the team this preseason, which is great to see.
Yeah, no, I have been a doubter perhaps in the past, and maybe that was, I think a lot of people have, and I don't think it's unfair based on what we saw last year between the injuries and then how it looked when he was playing. Yeah, I mean, and he is a certified practice god, so I think there is a caveat of let's see him do it in the real.
This feels different
games.
though.
But I was gonna say this game specifically, if you go back and watch it, this feels like his best game I've ever seen him play in his career. I'm so serious. I know you're playing against a USL championship team. It's a good USL championship team.
One of the better ones.
And, he played in Argentina. I'm guessing the skill gap between a good team and a bad team in Argentina is okay, I'm not even going to get into that because I don't know. But I think that what that's to say is you do see a different player. And I think that Jeremiah asked Christian about this at training today and was asking him, what's different about Pedro de la Vega? And all the guys are saying there's nothing different. There's nothing different about the way he's playing. It's just that he's healthy. He's healthy and he's confident and he's in the space to actually perform now. So I think that not only is it him having this full preseason, I think both of us were kind of talking that he needed, but he's in a new formation where he is a center and an integral piece, and he's just healthy. He's not injured anymore. And will he stay healthy? We'll see, but it's very promising.
He looks primed for a big year. He still has to go do it, but that's exciting. The last major thing that I was looking at is the integration of Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola. I think primarily Ferreira. We're high on what Paul Arriola can bring to the table, but Jesus Ferreira and his skill set, that is what this team was hoping would be a big addition that could help push them over the top, in addition to Pedro de la Vega taking that step forward. And early returns there, all positive. 2 goals, 2 assists this preseason. And I think just mainly by the eye test, it looks like he's hit the ground running as far as establishing that chemistry with De La Vega and building on the chemistry that he already has with Jordan Morris from the U.S. national team. That seems to be a good fit so far, based on the attack looking as dominant as it has so far in preseason. Again, he still has to do it when the actual game starts. But based on what I've seen, I feel decently confident that he's set to do that. What do you think about how Ferreira's looked so far?
I think he's looked great. I mean, he was coming into preseason seemingly unfit. So that was an interesting little wrinkle. And
I mean, according to U.S. Soccer, who knows what?
Right. I mean, I think he even admitted, though, that it was preseason
and,
he had been coming off of an injury and a trade and all of that. I mean, moving and all of the culmination of that is just going to lead you to maybe not being ready to jump and play 90 minutes, which is fine. But he's looked great, man. And I think that it's interesting to watch him play in such an unselfish manner as well around this team, and he seems to really be integrating well. I do think, though, the under's going to hit. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, on the Soccer Wise podcast, me and Ari were featured on Jeremiah. Not going to forget about our overlord, but we talked about this, and Andrew Wiebe said a line, correct?
Yeah.
And under over for goals and assists for Ferreira. And we picked the under. You can go listen to all of that there. But I think the way that he's playing, it does seem like he's more of like a facilitator in a way. I don't know if you've seen the same thing.
Well, I mean, I haven't watched the game. I haven't been watching these games live, admittedly, but I have been pretty consistent in saying that I think one of the most underrated parts of this move is, when people think of Jesus Ferreira at FC Dallas, they think of the goal scoring, but he is a very unselfish player. Right. His assist numbers throughout his career have been good, but just from watching him play, he puts as much effort and energy into setting people up as he does scoring himself. That's part of what makes him so dynamic and so versatile, and has made him such a force in the league when he's been in form, is the fact that he's multifaceted like that. Like, he can get his, but he's very unselfish, and he's very good at setting people up. I think that's just what we're seeing. Yeah. And I think I had a take at one point too that one of the things you might see with him playing on this team is his assist numbers go up. And I think Goss said that as well on Soccer Wise, that he was hitting the over on that because he thought his assist numbers were going to go up. I think, 21.5. I said under because it was in league play, but I think in all comps, I would take the over.
Right.
Like, pretty
well, and secondary assists do count, and I think that is really where he's going to thrive. Like, if I remember correctly, a lot of the goals were set up either by passes that he made or off-ball movements and things like that. One of the things that really stood out to me in Marbella when they were playing out there was his ability to kind of like open up the field of play with his speed and vision, and then kind of like hang back a little bit and wait for that second ball. Like Obed shoots the ball, right? It gets stopped or deflected, and he's there to collect, and then first time outside of the box, rip one and scores this banger goal, right? And I think that's been missing from the Sounders, right? Like, when they attack, it's been this build up, break down the defense, build up, break down the defense. Because when they give up the ball, they know they're going to just have to absorb the pressure. And what it seems like now is there's this like total flipping that on its head, where the Sounders want to take as many shots and chances as possible and then press really hard on that second ball and pressure the defense when they have the ball to force turnovers. And Jesus Ferreira has been great about that. Jordan Morris has been amazing at that. Obed Vargas as well. There was one goal that was completely started by Obed Vargas just stripping a defender when they were playing in Marbella. And I don't know. This seems like a different team, man. And I really do think that integrating Jesus Ferreira, and we'll talk about Paul Arriola, has completely changed the way that this team is able to play.
Ferreira is such a smart player, too.
He's so smart.
His soccer IQ is really, it's fantastic. And you can tell, this guy, his dad was a longtime Colombian national team player, played for FC Dallas for a long time, played pro soccer for over 20 years. He just stopped playing like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, he was playing like down in Colombia, right?
He was playing, I think, after Jesus had gone pro.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually true. But like when you grow up in the game like that, and you have a parent that's that good at the sport, like teaching you the ropes, you learn those little tricks, right? Like he can kind of like anticipate what a defender, he's in the defender's head and knows what they're going to do before they even do it. And then that gives him like such a leg up on what he's going to do. And I don't know, I've just been watching like so many of his highlights, and I'm just like struck by just the little things that he does to like give himself an edge. You can tell he like grew up in this game and has been like from birth, like taught how to play this game. All this is to say, if I'm giving a grade for the Seattle Sounders this preseason, I give it an A, man. I give it an A minus. I'll tell you why I give it an A minus, because the other criteria, an A plus or an A would have been getting through it with no injuries, and Albert Rusnak has this hip thing that he apparently he tweaked, and he's gonna.
It's been a reoccurring.
It's like a little this like reoccurring.
He's been taking shots
and
for
like
it.
I just don't like having this thought in my head of like, oh, is this gonna be like one of those things that drags on and he's like in and out of the lineup all this. I'm not like trying to put that on him. It's just like for me personally, for this to be an A plus preseason, I would need to not have that even in my thinking, which I know it's a lot to ask to make it through an entire training camp without any like injuries, but that's why an A plus it's a very difficult to attain grade. But as far as how they've looked on the field, it's everything that I wanted to see. I think like I can't think of anything that I would have wanted to see that I haven't. I think they've looked sharp. I think the new formation, they've clearly applied themselves and taken to that right away. I think the new players look like they're fitting in very well, both on and off the field. And De La Vega has looked freaking awesome. So what's there really to complain about other than this Rusnak injury, which is that's a bit of a nitpick when you consider that. Like I said, it's training camp. You're probably going to have something like that. So
yeah, I mean, it's frustrating that, I think it's frustrating in the larger context, right? Where you find out that this has been a pervasive issue, that he's been taking, some shots or whatever potentially to kind of help him with his recovery on this persisting hip issue, and to give him this DP contract. And the discourse will keep discoursing around Albert Rusnak.
If it turns out to be like
stop,
a chronic injury,
which is what it seems like it is.
I mean, we just have to see how much, if any, like it's going to limit him.
Right.
This
But
year.
I do think it is interesting because we are down a DP. We are down the most productive DP from last year. And I don't really see anyone saying that the season's over. Like, I think that that's such a testament to the depth of this team.
Yeah.
Like, the Sounders don't ever come out of preseason or the first few games without an injury, without someone who's just like that. That's just like Sounders trademark right there, right? Someone's blown out their hamstring or Achilles or whatever. And I think it's interesting this season. Maybe, I don't know how you feel, but I haven't heard like anyone complaining, saying, oh my God, the season's over. We lost Albert Rusnak, who is our DP.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It is a testament to the depth of the squad. The national pundits have noticed this. Doyle, he used the term like injury proof at one point in one of his columns when referring to the Seattle roster. I don't know if
Be careful what you wish for,
yeah,
buddy.
exactly. Like I wouldn't want to use that term, but that is a term that got used by a national pundit. Noah, if you had to give a grade for this preseason, would it be different than my grade?
Ari, I'll be a little bit more negative since that's my new moniker. I think that I would give them a B. I really do like what I've seen. I think that they are an incredibly interesting team this season, and from the very few additions that they did make, they were highly effective. And I really do think that Jesus Ferreira is the best player on this team now. And, call me crazy. And I just think that's from a versatility perspective, from what he's allowed this team to change or kind of build around and open up everyone to be able to play in a position that's more friendly for them. But I will say, like, I'm interested to see how many goals that they leak when it comes to league play, because this kind of, three in the back, that communication might not be set up yet.
They're playing so aggressively.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that is just preseason where trying stuff and it'll be a little more scaled back in an actual game. But I do think we have talked about this a little bit. Like, I do think that assuming that aggression is a part of the identity and tactics of that 3-5-2, I think that's going to come with like more concessions.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if it didn't. They would have to like perfectly strike that balance to maintain their defensive level and also play that much more aggressively.
Yeah,
to where I just don't know if that is very the degree of difficulty on threading that is very high.
It concerns me, because I think, like, while we see that they're scoring in preseason, I have the horror, the PTSD in my brain of watching the last 2 years of Sounders soccer where there were just stretches where they just couldn't buy a goal. And, there's an interview with Christian today where he's like, yeah, I'm going to be needing to rely on Nuhu to come up and defend in the midfield more, while Obed pushes forward because he's going to play more of an attacking role. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, alarm bells are going off thinking of Nuhu out of position constantly and tracking back and all of it. Like, I believe Brian is going to make it work, but I don't know. I give it a B because I think that's going to be a little bit rough. And then I agree with you. The Albert Rusnak injury, that's a rough person to have not completely
That is
healthy.
One of the most important players on the team already with a hip injury.
Right. Which
no scenario where that's ideal.
Let's be honest, Ari, the Sounders are not very forthcoming with the reality of injuries. At least Brian Schmetzer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the Nuhu and the 3-5-2 thing, I understand like the concern about that. I would hope that he plays the position differently. I think this position in that setup suits his skill set a lot better than wingback.
Yeah.
And
I just think his positioning
like you were saying on the stream the other night, like he bombs forward too much to play that position. Theoretically, I think he won't be doing that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That is,
but
if he's playing the third CB role the same as he's playing the wingback, then like that would not be. I don't think that's what he would have been coached to do.
I just think, for me, it's a little bit concerning when I hear Christian say, Nuhu is going to push forward to help me defend in the midfield as like a, my backup. And knowing Nuhu and kind of I would say his biggest downfall is kind of that tracking back, or sometimes he can let a man slip in behind him. And at that point, you might have two defenders. It might be 3-on-2 on a counterattack, especially if you're playing a team like, LAFC or something like that, where they're going to counterattack. They're going to hit you with that. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be able to score against a team like that, especially with like high pressure and whatnot. It just like, I don't know. I want to see it in MLS play before I'm like completely sold on an A rating. So I'm going B. It's better than what I would have gotten in school, Ari. So, they're already off to a better start than I would have suspected. Did you think that they were going to look like this coming into this season?
No, and that's part of why I'm giving them an A. Like, I think if you like, you could argue, I think, for a lower grade too, based on the fact that they have had, 8 concessions. There was the game where they had it 2-0 and they conceded twice to draw 2-2. They had a 3-3 draw, that's probably never that does not indicate a great defensive performance.
Right.
I'm just not as concerned with that coming off a season where they had the best defense in the league. Pretty much all I was focused on this preseason was the offense, which has looked fantastic, and it's looked meaningfully better than it did last year, which is what we needed to see and what I was hoping to see, and I think we saw that. So that's why I'm more A than B, because
right.
They need to score more than 51 this year. I'm going to be tracking that. The
road
drive,
to 51.
It's going to be the road to 52.
The road to 52.
The road to 52. And
we should get a little chalkboard. We can put.
I want at least 61 this year, based on what I've seen.
All comps
this preseason, league play.
Got
51 is what they got in league play last year. 10 more, I think that should be like a baseline. Like, the expectation should be at least 10 more goals than they scored last year. And I think
Jordan Morris Golden Boot.
I think they're at least set up to do that. And to get to that goal, like, you gotta have the foundation, which I think that's what they've done. They've done a good job of laying that, to my eye.
Do you think, I have to ask, do you think that this is it? Like, indications, like, you know how like when people are looking at stocks with the little like candlesticks or whatever, they look to see an indication for a rebound and it's going to go up to the moon. Do you feel like that's what it's looking like for Pedro?
I think it is, and that's a good segue into our first agenda check of 2025. Yeah.
Oh my God, guys! It's been a year since we've done agenda check.
It's been a minute. It is our most popular segment on the show. We're looking for a sponsor for it. If you want to sponsor the agenda check, hit us up. It would be that'd be like, it's like an honor to sponsor that.
It would be an honor.
We're doing the sponsor a favor at that point. We're just kidding. First agenda check of 2025. You wrote this down.
Yep.
Pedro de la Vega's stock at an all-time high. I would say, based on everything that we just talked about, that agenda is very much strengthened. I don't want to go too crazy and have people saying that we're like guaranteeing that he's going to be an MVP candidate. But I think I've just been watching the highlights this preseason, and even from those, like you said, it is a different player.
Yeah.
Like, it's a healthy, fit, and motivated player who's in great form and who's he played out of his mind in these exhibition matches for whatever that's worth, which I honestly think, coming off the season he had last year, that is worth something.
Right.
I know a lot of people are going to say it's meaningless because it's preseason. Like, I don't think so. I think he needed a preseason exactly like this. And it's honestly like even beyond what I would have called a good preseason. He led the team in goals. The assist he had to Jordan Morris was excellent. So this agenda is honestly skyrocketing, with the knowledge that it could come crashing down when the games actually start.
Yeah, he could definitely Icarus, but like, I don't think that that's gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that like he's gonna score a lot of goals and he's gonna be really good. And I think the only thing it obviously hinges on is, like we said, if he can stay healthy. And he doesn't look fearful anymore. I think that was something that I really took away from this, was like, you could tell he was hesitant when he was playing after he came back from his injury.
It was in his
it was clearly in his head.
Well, the injury was in his head, but I think also the weight of expectations was in his head.
Right. And it's like, you can't bomb any harder. You already bombed, like, people already feel how they feel about you. So fuck it. Play your game, ball out. I think this agenda is super strengthened, and I'm excited to see what he does, because, like, man, it's, he could really truly be the next Evander. You know what I mean? You have a bum season and you turn it around, and then maybe he's going to be going to another club. Who knows?
Jeremiah said that according to his intel, the player that clubs globally contact Seattle about the most is still De La Vega, which I wasn't familiar with his pedigree.
I wasn't familiar with your game, Pedro De La Vega.
I wasn't familiar with his game when he was playing in Argentina, but he was a very, very highly rated prospect there, and I think a bounce back season like we're hoping for, and his name suddenly does shoot back into those conversations. The Sounders attacking soccer is back agenda. What is this, your personal agenda or a general agenda?
This is just like, we've been on the era of the Sounders defensive team, 2 years back to back of the best defense in MLS. Sounders attack is back agenda? Are we going to be an attacking club? Is this going to be less the defensive club of the year? I think so. I think Sounders attacking soccer is back. People have called you've heard this. People have called the ball of the last 2 years boring, uninspiring, slow, just not fun. I think it's going to be different this year.
I think that narrative, I see what you're saying. I think that narrative,
I don't agree with that narrative.
In my opinion, that narrative got a little overblown. It was totally deserved and merited for the first few months of last season, where we recorded how many shows about it, like how
there was a lot of L pods.
There was a lot. Well, there's L pods, but it was also even when they got results, it felt like pulling teeth.
Yep.
They weren't scoring a lot of goals, and I think what happened is people latched on to kind of that narrative and the feelings that got elicited during that era, which I'm not I get it. We were as disillusioned as anybody, but I think a lot of people stuck to that narrative when the reality is down the stretch of last season and into the playoffs, they were playing at a 2 point, whatever points per game pace. They weren't 2019 LAFC, but they were scoring goals at a respectable rate for an MLS club, and then they combined that with an elite defense and made a legitimately good run into the playoffs. Almost made it to MLS Cup. So I think the idea that they're this boring defense first team that didn't know how to score goals, I think that's a little overblown. I think that was more true at the beginning of last year than it turned out to be at the end of last year and into the playoffs. That said, I do think that there is at least reason to hope, based on what we've seen so far in preseason, that this attack can take another step, even from where it got to near the end of last year. And they can, I would love to see them have the type of season, maybe they might never have a season where they put up 70, 75 goals or something like that. But a season where they're racking up stats like the Dempsey Oba days, and they remember how just electric they were to watch in those days. It was like appointment viewing, watching those two guys every week. If either one of them got hurt, then it became, or was out for whatever reason, became a different story. But when those two guys were on the field, it was the most fun team in the league to watch. I think everyone is just itching and hoping for something like that this year, because I think that narrative was overblown, but there was definitely reality to it at the first 2-3 months of last year.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if I necessarily. We've talked about it a million times that it's okay to enjoy defensive soccer. We both do. There's a little bit of a different layer to it. It's not as exciting, but it is still fun and interesting. But I really,
as long as you win with it, I don't really have an issue with it.
Yeah, it's you're grinding out wins. I think that I saw some people say that, if you score 5 goals and still lose, it's way more entertaining. I agree. I tend to agree with that. I don't want that to happen. No, I don't want it to be a complete flip-flop. But I think that regardless of what's going to happen, getting some attacking soccer is going to be a breath of fresh air. And I do think that agenda is to the moon right now.
Best in the West agenda. I feel like that's also on pretty good standing right now. Outside of how Seattle has looked this preseason, there's just a lot of question marks, I think, going around the West right now. I think what's going to happen is like an unexpected team like Minnesota or Houston or something is going to turn out to be a lot better than we think, and that's going to throw a variable
Everyone was
into
saying
it.
San Jose, but they lost like 5-0 the other day.
I think the Quakes thing is it's excitement with Bruce. It's excitement about Chicho. I think the reality of a turnaround like they're trying to embark on right now is that it just typically doesn't work like one off season with the new coach. Even Bruce Arena, like all of a sudden you go from literally one of the worst MLS teams of the last 10 years into a playoff contender. I was talking to this about with Nico on the live stream. They gave up 80 goals, almost 80 goals, 78 goals last year, which is just crazy. So not to get on a Quakes tangent there, but what were you talking about? Oh yeah,
best in the West.
Yeah, there's like there's question marks surrounding both LA clubs. Frankly, I have very little doubt that particularly LAFC are going to be elite. I think they're going to be an elite club, even with the turnover that they've had. I think the Galaxy are honestly in an even dicier situation than LAFC, but again, I find it hard to believe that they're going to fall off all that much. But then you get to Salt Lake, Houston, Minnesota, Colorado, Vancouver, Portland. It's anyone's guess on how good or not good any of those teams are going to be. So
there's just been so much shuffling.
I think the Seattle being the best in the West agenda is a good agenda right now, more because of the question marks around everyone else than even anything about the Sounders.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but that chart that we talked about last time, the percentage of minutes returning, the rankings have updated since there's been more transfer moves, and the Sounders are now second in returned minutes, just below Toronto still. And I think that's like people, I saw the dumbest pundits out there. You can fill in the name because I'm sure that you know who it is, talking about, oh, this team is so boring and all they do is just bring back the same people over and over and over again and like nothing ever changed. That's actually like not a bad thing sometimes. I love a transfer. You love a transfer?
Yeah.
I love a transfer.
I'm all about
a transfer. But you don't need to turn over your roster all the time to be successful in this league.
Well, the point I was making about that is like you don't want to be that team necessarily.
No.
Like the teams that are having a lot of turnover in like changing their entire rosters and doing all these transfers.
It means shit's not hitting.
It means it's not hitting. Like that's why you have to do that, you know? So, transfers and roster movement like are super exciting, but I mean, you're right. Like it's not always a sign of like ambition or like a good thing to have to be doing that stuff. Atlanta United's a perfect example, in like San Jose too. Everyone's praising their off seasons and talking about how they had the best off seasons ever. I've been saying that I love Atlanta United's off season. The reason they had to do that is because they were bad.
They were very bad.
San Jose, insanely bad. Atlanta, very, very mid, below average compared to what they built. Beat Messi, but like realistically,
that was the crown jewel. Beat Messi.
Realistically, like Atlanta has not been what they build themselves as for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's
why they fired their sporting director, brought in Chris Henderson, and blew up their team this offseason.
Yeah,
because they were bad.
Yeah, I like. Frankly, it's all to say like I think it's between the Sounders and LAFC right now. I think the Galaxy might be a little bit of a dark horse. Here's my guess, because you were talking about, some random team's going to pop up. FC Dallas.
So save that.
Wrapping that up, holding it.
That's a topic for the around the league section. But okay, last agenda, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Craig Weibel cooked agenda. I'll let you take the floor here. Like, what is your...
He's tossing me the bone. He's like, "Oh, I know you were critical of Craig." Well, I was just trying to get some good discourse going.
Oh, okay.
But,
all right. I mean, I can give my take
no, I'll
that.
go first.
Okay.
I'm not a coward.
Right.
I was critical. I've been quite critical. And I will eat my crow. I loved the Jesus Ferreira thing, and I've been praising that, so I won't eat crow about that. And Paul Arriola, I was a little bit like, I don't know. He's turned out to be a much better player than I think everyone gave him credit for, and he's just integrated with this team really well. And I don't know, I haven't seen Kim Keehee play, but he's there, he exists, he's an extra piece. And like, would I have loved another superstar? Yeah, but like, that's probably going to happen in the summer when you get another U22. So like, I got to be honest, like, I still don't love the Albert Rusnak re-signing. Jordan Morris being a DP, I'm like, kind of like, it's kind of fine at this point to me. But like, yeah, what are you going to do? You can't just like let Albert walk. I mean, you could, but then it's like, it makes this whole... Anyway, that's all to say, given the circumstances, given what like we've all kind of learned as like the budget, the Sounders are very budget oriented. They're being talked about as like one of the best built teams, not just of like this year, but of all time, in depth and in like flexibility and the ability to get essentially 5 DPs. They may not be your Cucho or, your Boanga, but they're like 5 serviceable, really good DPs when you only are using, obviously 3 DP spots.
I think it's undeniable that he cooked with the Ferreira trade.
Yeah.
To be able to get Ferreira on TAM, I mean, it's a great trade. It's a great trade. I think we're gonna find out exactly how much he cooked when the games start. But I guess the thing with the Ferreira trade is that what I would say about it is that even if it doesn't work out, the process was sound.
Yeah,
and that's I think you hear GMs
Leo Chu turn up season 2025.
You hear GMs and coaches talk about this a lot, though, process over results. The results oftentimes are out of your control, but if you are convicted in your process, you're convicted in your team's identity, and you know what types of players will work with your club and all that stuff, then if you are convicted in all that stuff and an acquisition doesn't work out, then you at least know that your process was sound.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those situations to me where if it could be a total bust. Maybe Jesus Ferreira forgets how to play, or he goes out there and starts picking the ball up because he doesn't know how to play for a team that's not FC Dallas. I don't know. It could be a bust, but I would still understand the process entirely, even if it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... And I even said this, I think, on another podcast. Like, if you want to go and have 1 billion signings every summer, like, go be a fan of another club. Like, it's very clear that isn't what this team is anymore. And that's, like, doesn't make me super happy all the time. And, like, I'm going to chirp about it. So, like, obviously, I think everyone else should chirp about it. But, bringing shit back in hindsight, kind of taking a full preseason into consideration, will be able to bring up or down this agenda throughout the year. But I think I gotta say, he's like the Undertaker right now. He's sticking his hand up out of the ground, and I don't know. I think a lot of haters are gonna have a lot of things to contend with.
Yeah. Obed Vargas transfer walk.
Obed Vargas transfer because he's walking out the door, Ari.
Obed Vargas transfer watch. We have an update, it looks like. Per Sounder at Heart, Obed Vargas says that if he moves abroad, he says it will be to Europe.
He listens to the pod.
Quote, he listens to the pod. You literally
listens to me.
Quote, I want to make sure it's the right offer. If it's going to help me develop, that's where I want to play. Europe is the place I want to go. This is newsworthy because there had been discussion as to whether he would go to Liga MX or go to Europe. You were saying that going to Liga MX was a terrible idea. I think the points you made about that were sound, but I think you did have to take into account the fact that Obed has a lot of loyalty to Mexico. He plays for the Mexican national team now. His dad is a diehard El Tri fan who means a lot, and played for the academy that Rui Diaz in the Liga MX club that Rui Diaz played for, and all that stuff. So the possibility of him going to Liga MX definitely did seem to be real. Apparently, he's saying that when he does go, it's going to be to Europe, which is what you wanted.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't surprised, honestly. It's, I understand. I had even said to you, I think, that like if he goes anywhere, he's going to go to Europe. Like it doesn't make any sense for him to go to Mexico. Like I understand his connections there and his quality. Obviously, he could dominate, but at this point, like I think there is a real conversation to say, what Mexican club are you going to go to that will give you an opportunity to grow that like is any different than just staying with the Sounders? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you go and play for Rayados or Club America, like, what's the difference? Like, I mean, seriously, they're playing in the same competitions. They're playing against essentially the same teams. Like, you're going to get to play that Mexican competition if you're playing in MLS, but you get to be, in like a place you've lived for longer. To me, if he was going to make that jump, if he wants to be a staple on the Mexican national team, he's got to play in Europe. And he clearly wants to play in the World Cup. He should play in the World Cup. So he's probably going to go to Europe in the summer. Some
people might argue that a club like Club America has more status, I guess, than any MLS club that you could name. But even if true, it's not like Club America has anywhere near the type of status as some of the clubs that Obed has the potential to that are going to have eyes on him. That we think are going to have eyes on.
Well, he already won. He's already won club, or he's already played in the Club World Cup. He's about to play in another Club World Cup. He's won Champions League. Yeah. He's won MLS Cup. He's been to the final of Leagues Cup. He's won. You know what I mean? Like, what else could he need from North America? Like, I'm saying, if you're just looking at it as like a professional, there's nothing that Liga MX is going to be able to offer him that is, frankly, any different from staying in MLS, which is it just seems like that would be easier in general.
Yeah. The Sounders have learned their Leagues Cup opponents. No, what's going on here with this?
Well, we will find out and tell you. We have to take a break, Ari. We have to advertise. We'll be right back. Ari, as a dedicated fashion expert, how do you do it? Day in and day out, I see you rocking the best fits. I need your help.
No, I'm glad you asked. People ask me that a lot, and I can tell you need an upgrade. Looking for timeless menswear and durable home goods with a touch of the Pacific Northwest? Podium in Edmonds, Washington has you covered. As Edmonds' first ever men's general store, Podium offers a curated collection of quality clothing and durable goods featuring domestic and European brands. Whether it's Filson, Dayhen 1920, or Wax London, everything in store is made to last, be loved, and even passed down.
Located at 114th 4th Avenue North, just off Main Street in the heart of downtown Edmonds, come shop and explore at Podium to find all the essentials for the modern Pacific Northwest man. They're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 6 or Sunday from 12 to 5. Also anytime online at shoppodium.us, as well as Instagram at Podium Edmonds.
Press conference not spicy enough? Not as hot-headed as Peter Vermees? Are your hot takes just not hot enough? Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest. Specializing in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars, Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special.
Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at HaxonFerments.com. That's HaxanFerments.com. And right now, if you use code LS at checkout, you will get a hot sauce completely free with your order. Again, so go to HaxonFerments.com, use code LS at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Haxon Ferments, proud sponsor of the Flaming Hot Press Conference. Trademark pending. It's a new year, and that means new gear. The 2025 MLS jerseys are available on MLS Store. It's the ultimate destination for every fan, whether you're repping the Seattle Sounders or, any other club you secretly root for. MLS Store has it all. From jerseys to exclusive team gear to championship gear, it's all there. They are always running some kind of sale, whether it's free shipping, 20, 30, 40% off, so there's no excuse not to load up on some brand new gear. Get yourself looking right for the new season. So check out MLS Store by clicking the link in our description or going to lobbingscorchers.com/MLS store. Every purchase helps support the show and keep us going.
Don't want to give money to the oligarchs, but love Lobbing Scorchers? Do we have a deal for you? MLS Season Pass is back on Apple TV with access to every single MLS match, including Leagues Cup and the entire Audi MLS Cup playoffs with no blackouts. It's not just the games, you get total access to the pre- and post-match MLS 360 whip-around show in both English and Spanish, and get live look-ins and highlights from around the league, as well as full match replays and recaps. Now, you can support our show by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV to purchase your subscription and support our show.
Lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV. Please, don't let the oligarchs win. Welcome back from those beautiful ads. I hope you enjoyed them. You better go patron our sponsors. And if you skip the ads, Ari, we know.
Don't skip the ads.
Don't skip our ads. The Sounders have learned their Leagues Cup opponents. The Seattle Sounders will face Liga MX sides Cruz Azul, Santos Laguna, and Tijuana. All three matches will be played at Lumen Field. Cruz Azul July 31st, Santos Laguna August 3rd, and Tijuana on August 6th. And there will be no MLS games during those three matches. How are you feeling about that? I mean, I wouldn't say they're the highest tier Liga MX teams, but like they're pretty good, you know? Like a Cruz Azul is good. That's a good club.
Yeah. Well, I think that first of all, it's not a popular opinion, but I'm pro Leagues Cup. I'll just say it. I'm pro Leagues Cup because I think basically here's how I look at Leagues Cup. Like the way I look at it is that any reps that you get against Liga MX competition is an opportunity for you to play outside your comfort zone, play against clubs that you wouldn't normally play. But most importantly, like I think these games make you better. Like there's so much anti Leagues Cup sentiment out there. I get it. Like people like the Open Cup better. People think that it's a cynical ploy or what have you. But I truly believe that one of the reasons that the Sounders won Champions League is because of the Leagues Cup run, in part because of the Leagues Cup run that they went on the year before. So for me, like I think this is a good trio to face as measuring stick opponents, and these are the type of games where if you take them seriously and you go hard, like you can get a lot out of them. Even I wouldn't say I care that much about winning it, but I do think like these are good games for the teams to be playing in. Whether it's playing Liga MX in Champions Cup or Leagues Cup, I think there's a lot that you can get out of these games.
I think it's undeniable that we would both be more excited to win a Leagues Cup than an Open Cup. Is that? I mean, am I reaching here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I would be.
I'm saying us too.
Yeah,
As,
I mean, that's how I don't. Yeah.
Like I'm sorry. Like I love the Open Cup.
I think anyone who says that they would is honestly trying to say that they value the Open Cup as more significant. I think you're being disingenuous.
I am a pro Open Cup.
This is
guy.
We're gonna.
This is it. The podcast is over. We're gonna get shut down by the pro rel for USA fans. It's over for us. But realistically, like, what is so I just don't. I don't really understand what's all of this love and affection for, a tournament that we've won 4 times. We've won it 4 times.
It's the history, it's the memories, it's like
I love it. It's shithousery.
It's the novelty of it. It's the shithousery. That's what it is.
It's great.
I get all that. But I mean,
it's just like let's be honest here. What is more valuable to the Sounders in this moment? Is it playing Louisville City at Starfire in front of, 10,000 of us sickos? Or is it playing Cruz Azul in front of probably a sold-out Lumen Field in a real meaningful match that can qualify you, for Champions League?
I just want to say, when we were talking, we were kind of having this conversation on a previous show, and I was explaining why the oligarchs don't like the U.S. Open Cup, which I was not. A few people said that I was defending the oligarchy. Shout out Sounder Knaves. I was not defending the oligarchy. I was explaining how the oligarchy thinks.
Yeah.
I was taking you inside the mind of an oligarch. Once you understand the mind of the oligarch, it explains like how and why these things work the way they do. The reason I was explaining that is because people act mind blown by it. They're like, why would the higher ups choose Leagues Cup over the Open Cup? This is an outrage. It's once you understand that the oligarchs' sole obsession is with their bottom line
plunder
and nothing else.
Yeah.
That's how those decisions get made.
Chest.
That's what I was explaining. You can kill the messenger if you want, but it is literally everything I said is literally a fact, Sounder Knaves.
I will be watching every single Open Cup game. So, you can shit on me all you want for my takes. I am very excited that the Sounders are playing in Leagues Cup versus Open Cup. I think there's such a value in having Open Cup. I think it's super fun to watch. I actually think the way that MLS is doing it, where they're kind of giving the shittier MLS teams an opportunity to go play for a trophy that they could potentially actually win, is way more meaningful, because you're going to get an opportunity for USL clubs to still play these, MLS teams, but have a chance to actually upset them. And for me, my agenda, Ari, I want to see New Mexico United lift that goddamn trophy.
Oh man,
do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, that would be one. Yeah, that would
so
be
that's
one
why
of,
I'm pro Leagues Cup.
That would be one of the greatest days of my life. I do want to clarify one more thing on this topic before we move on.
Before we get canceled and guillotined.
Before we got on a tangent here, I definitely don't see it as a situation where. I don't want the Sounders to never play in Open Cup again. I think for this year specifically, with the Club World Cup and CCC in there, it makes way more sense for them to do it how they're doing it, where Defiance plays in the Open Cup for this year, and then you take it case by case, year by year, right?
Right.
If based on on the competitions next year, hell yeah, put the first team back in Open Cup. I understand why some people might have thought that I was saying that they should not play in the Open Cup anymore. That is not necessarily my contention. I think for this year though, I think for this year the setup makes sense.
That's my calculation as well. And to add on to that, they were going to play the Defiance kids in the Open Cup if they were in it. If they weren't playing in Leagues Cup and they were in Open Cup, I promise you, unless they made it to the semis or the finals, they were going to play the Defiance kids.
Well, so that's another...
and then everyone would have been upset, and then it would have just been back to this cycle of complaining about the Open Cup, which the most well-intentioned fans and the best fans, the people who are very anti-complaining about the club, that is their hill that they love to die on. That's I get it. I love it. I respect it. Keep shooting your Scorchers. Lob them. I'm going to be watching Leagues Cup and Open Cup and enjoying both. And I love that the Defiants are in it. I'm going to go watch Ballard play in it. We got to go to Ballard in Spokane. They're playing again. Remember we went to that matchup
they're playing
year?
Spokane Velocity?
Yeah, they're playing the same club.
That team is good.
Yeah, we're big Spokane Velocity. Ozzy Alonso, co-owner. Anyway. That was a whole lot of defending ourselves. Sorry.
yeah.
That was a whole lot of.
We created a fair amount of that might have been your most controversial episode.
I don't know. Maybe
it was in your top 5.
Yeah, it didn't go over well in the Discord.
All right. Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't really hang out there. So.
Me neither.
I just had one big MLS story that we have to talk about before we get out of here, and that was it.
All right.
We can call it a wrap for episode 83. Huge trade. Blockbuster trade. The Lucho Acosta-Evander saga is officially over. Lucho Acosta has been traded to FC Dallas in exchange for the Argentine number 10. FC Cincinnati receive $5 million guaranteed in a straight cash for player trade. They could get up to an additional $1 million if certain performance-based metrics are achieved and retain a trade percentage if Acosta is again moved for cash within MLS. So Lucho Acosta is off to FC Dallas. And to replace him, Cincinnati, I'm not sure if it's officially been finalized, but they are getting Evander. Evander is replacing Lucho Acosta in Cincy, which means that Evander is no longer going to play for the Portland Timbies, which is funny because he's their best player. He's an MVP candidate. He's not going to play for them anymore. He's going to Cincy. Lucho Acosta is going to FC Dallas. There's a lot of implications to this. It's, there have been some big moves this offseason, but I'd say this is the biggest, and this is also, it's kind of a dawn of a new era where you can see players of this profile and stature move like this within the league. It's kind of sick, honestly.
It's tight.
Lucho Acosta, this is an MVP with FC Cincinnati. He got disgruntled, had a falling out there in a way that was just, it got just way more contentious.
It was kind of wild.
I expected. It was entertaining as a neutral.
He was posting too, which was awesome. He was on his Instagram story, riding my bike alone again. They won't let me train with the team. Hashtag FC Cincinnati.
He was
hashtag free me
at Chris Albright.
Yeah, he was at
He was like training by himself, but they weren't letting him train with the team. Now he's on FC Dallas,
which is basically like training alone anyway. So I don't really know what.
We're going to talk about the FC Dallas implications because I think it's there is. It's an interesting move.
They don't have any players on their team ananymore, Ari. I don't. They traded them all away.
We're gonna get to that, but let's first just talk about the comedic aspect of the fact that the Portland Timbies they scouted up Evander. They got this guy to the league. It was iffy. If it was going to go well at first, and then last year it just hit so well. He had such a good year, over 30 goal contributions, almost 20 assists. Looked like one of the most electric players in the league, and they couldn't keep him. They couldn't keep him.
No one wants to live in Portland, buddy.
They got blown out 6-0 in the playoffs, and he was like, "I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm out of here." And he forced his way to FC Cincinnati, which is a much better team. But I just think, talking about it from the Timbies perspective, we've talked about this, but there's no way that whatever replacement that they get is an upgrade. So the way I see it, their team is getting worse kind of no matter how you slice it. They're going to make a big time signing and spend a lot of money to replace him, and it might work, it might not, but they're not going to upgrade on it. And the other thing is, even with Evander last year having the crazy year that he had, they still weren't that good.
No.
So it's not looking too hot for Phil Nevs and company.
Phil Neville, first of all, re-sign him for another year, maybe 4 more. The fact that he has a job there still is one of my favorite things in the entire world.
He's only been on the job for a year. That's the thing. They have to double down for at least 1 more year, potentially 2, before they can admit any sort of misstep. Right?
Has anyone checked in on him though? Because he did say Evander was like a son to him, or was like a son, or is his favorite son or whatever. He has 3 children, and so I think we should check in on Phil Nevs because there's no way that he's doing well right now.
Yes, the Timbies are down bad for this, and honestly, FC Cincinnati, I was thinking about if you told them that they were gonna have to part ways with Lucho kind of unexpectedly. I guess the Lucho thing dates back to the playoffs last year. After they got knocked out of the playoffs, he literally, first thing he said after the game was like, "I don't know if I'm going to be here. I don't know if I want to be here anymore." And
the chili hot dogs are kind of fucking shit. Well, I don't want to be here.
It was out of nowhere. It was after the game, tough playoff loss, but they were like, "Lucho, what did you think of the game?" He was like, "I don't want to be on this team anymore."
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Whoa, what?" And then fast forward to now, and He's now on FC Dallas. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Here's the question I wanted to pose. This is a potential new segment I was thinking of kicking around called Real or Fraudulent. So let's kick that question around in regards to FC Dallas. With this Lucho move, they've got an MVP caliber player now.
Yeah.
Does this trade... FC Dallas has been talked about as a club that's in full-on rebuild. A lot of people have them picked to be wooden spooning, all that stuff. But now they have Lucho.
Yeah.
And here's what I will say. Pitar Musa is the real deal number 9.
Yeah, he's talented.
He's good. He and Lucho, that's not a bad duo at all. They obviously moved off Jesus Ferrer and Paul Areola.
And Tafari.
And they traded Nkosi Tafari to LAFC.
Which why?
They just signed I don't know if he's a DP, but they just dropped a huge bag on a center back.
That's true.
So, But Tafari was kind of a defensive anchor type player to my mind. And so I don't know why you wouldn't just keep him, but they did spend a bunch of money on
You can't keep anyone in that city, man.
And the thriving metropolis of Frisco, Texas.
Yep. They couldn't even keep me there.
And Nkosi Tafari is gone. Jesus Ferrer, Paul Areola gone. But Pitar Musa, Lucho Acosta, that's a good duo. This new CB, they spent a bunch of money on him. They got Shaq Moore. I don't know. Do we think that does this Lucho trade change any of the way that you think about FC Dallas? I'll just say from my perspective, like my first thought was not really, but then I thought about Lucho playing with Musa, and also the fact that Eric Quill is their coach now. Shout out New Mexico United.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they could be closer to like middle of the pack than wooden spooning.
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier. I think that they could definitely be a dark horse. I don't know how their team is gonna mesh, quite frankly, especially with.
Well, and it's also one of those situations where, like, if one piece gets taken out, it might all fall apart. Well, that's sort of the vibe I get. But if you assume relative full health, I think they could be a fringe playoff team.
Yeah, it's and
Acosta's gonna eat, but it's like I would be wary of thinking like, oh, Acosta going to a new team, he's one of the best players in the league, therefore that team good. Like that's typically one guy is not gonna have that effect, even if they're really good. Like look at Evander last year, he put up huge numbers, and the team was still not that good. We're gonna call it right there for episode 83. Because the camera died, but also we were done talking anyway. Like, comment, subscribe, patronize our sponsors, write us a review. What else am I missing?
Live shows, Ari.
Live streams.
You do live streams.
Yeah.
Share with the people.
Live streaming every Monday and Thursday. Mondays, Lobbing Scorchers kickoff with Nico Moreno. Thursdays, 7:30 p.m.
Lobbing Scorchers Under the Lights.
Under the Lights, where I'll just be running that solo, but also bringing on people and guests and stuff. It's going to be
and
a lot
me
of
randomly.
fun.
I'll pop in
Noah
there.
will
Ari.
pop in. The live shows are a lot of fun. Definitely stop by that.
YouTube.com/at Lobbing Scorchers. Or lobbingscorchers.com/YouTube.
I think that's everything. We're going to call it right there. Until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes Nos Arietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.